Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'm recording right now.
Okay, Ashani's recording. Let's go ahead and start.
So you good? Okay. So what I was saying was that I appreciate the invite from Ashana when she texted me a few weeks ago, and I always just have respect for what her and Roxanne do with Crave because I know leadership role is not easy. Um, I don't know if I introduced myself last time I was here, but I am happily married 7 years. I have a 4-year-old son. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I am an educator. So I teach high school English. Me and my wife both teach high school English. So with that being said, I'm going to pray and go ahead and get into it. All right. All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us here in person and online to come together. I know that for some it's been a long day. I know myself it's been a long day, but I know that someone needs to hear the word that you put on my heart, dear Lord. I pray that as we go throughout the speaking or words that I have to say today, that someone will be touched by you. And just know I pray. Amen. So when Ashana approached me with the topic was faith like, and it's so many different biblical characters in the Bible. You know, I could have talked about Noah and how he had faith that it was going to rain. Could have talked about Abraham and his faith, Joseph and his faith. There's so many different biblical characters that you can talk about when it comes to faith. But from my perspective, at least for me, growing up in the church and born into the church, um, those things don't really get it for me. Like Noah, I get it. He waited and hoped it would rain. But if I look at my life right now in this day and age, like I can't imagine it not raining. So that's hard for me to understand his faith. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone else. So I wanted to make it more relatable. And what I can relate to is children. So my 4-year-old son, I won't go into how great he is because, of course, all parents think that their kids are great. But I will say that he has this thing he does when, as an educator, I like to do my grading on the living room floor, right? So when I'm on the living room floor grading, he has this thing he does where he will start running and I won't see him towards me. He'll start running towards me, and right before he gets to me, he'll just call out daddy. And as I turn, he will launch his body into the air and expect for me to catch him. All right. I haven't dropped him yet, but he does. That's what he does. And there's this Bible text in the Bible that says James 2 verses 17. It says, "Even so, faith, if you have not works, is dead, being alone." And I think that's one thing we do as adults where we have faith, but we don't act on it. You know what I mean? So Amari has the faith that I'm going to catch him. He doesn't hesitate to launch his body knowing that I'm going to catch him. And he has that faith because he trusts me and he knows that I've caught him before. But we as adults don't have that same faith. And we went over one of the texts in the Bible one of the texts that was scrambled in Matthew 18 verses 3, it says, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Right? So if you look at the parallel, if God, who we call Father, is our Father, and we really believe that, and we are his children, then how come we don't have faith like children? A lot of times we take our problems, whatever we're going through, and we bring them to the altar and we pray about it. And then when we get up to leave, we pick up those same problems and take them with us, myself included. I mentioned earlier that me and my wife were looking at houses. And throughout the process, when we're and saving money for the deposit, getting our credit together, all that stuff. And The market is terrible right now. It's terrible. So we started looking at houses, and it's very, very discouraging. We saw this house we liked, got outbidded, and before the process started, I kept saying, God got us, right? He got us. If a house is meant for us, we'll get it, right? During the process, I completely forgot that faith. And the first time we got outbidded, I said, okay, you know what? This is crazy. It's not going to work. And just all kind of negativity. My wife said, what happened to God got us? And I was like, yeah, he does, but the market is so messed up and everyone's bidding so high. And my wife was like, if you say God got us, then he got us, right? And I think we do that a lot of times where we have issues and we try to solve the issue ourselves. So, yes, we believe in God, but as individuals, we try to fix it on our own. And when we come up short, our faith goes out the window. All right. So my son, this one time, he's at a friend's house, right? And he's playing, they're doing their thing over there. The adults are over here doing their thing, and they break a toy. And the little boy, he's a little distraught. And my son kind of like, takes the toy from him and brings it to me and says, here, daddy, fix this, right? I didn't know what he had broken. I didn't know if I could fix it or not, but he had complete confidence that I could fix it. Why? Because I fixed his toys before. So if I fixed his toys before, why could I not fix his friend's toy? Does that make sense? We see God do so many things in other people's lives. It's great things, wonderful things. And then we have the same issues and we don't call on God. Or we call on God, we lack the faith to believe that he's actually going to come through with his promise, right? A lot of times we undersell God. So we don't believe God can do something great. My life is a living testimony of what God can do. The job I have right now, I didn't search for the job. I didn't search for the job. I didn't even know they were hiring. I was looking for a job. I needed a new job. But I didn't know this particular place was hiring. They called me and they said, and I told my wife at the time, I said, okay, I wanted to transition out of public school for right now. I don't know what the future holds. I may go back to doing my sales job or whatever. I'm not sure. And I lack the faith that God got us. Sitting at work in April, school ends in May, still filling out applications on different jobs. And I got an email saying, hey, we saw your application on Indeed. We saw your information on Indeed, and we want you to interview. And I was like, what is this school? Did the research. The school is 5 minutes from my son's daycare. The school, when I went there and I told them what I wanted to do and everything, they was like, yeah, we can do that. And I told them, like, the curriculum that you have, I'm not really comfortable with that curriculum. I think you should make these changes. They was like, listen, whatever changes you want to make, go ahead and make it. Teachers don't make curriculum changes. Teachers only make, like, we don't make curriculum changes. That doesn't even come from the school. It comes from outside the school. But by being a private school, they can make those decisions. Okay, I get nervous before I speak, and the delay didn't help, but I'll be okay.
My bad.
No. So I think the thing about it is, and I'm gonna take off my watch because a friend told me that when you're speaking, don't look at the time. I have a tendency to look at the watch because it's not important how long I talk or how short I talk. What's important as an educator, especially, is did the lesson, did the takeaway, did the student understand the point that was trying to be made? Did they take away? Did they learn what they were supposed to be learning? So tonight, the thing that I want you to, like, your takeaway should be, if we want to enter the kingdom of heaven, And also, if we want to be more stress free, if we leave our problems at the altar, we need to leave them at the altar. Don't pick up your burden and carry it out through the week. And a lot of times we do that where we're praying about something, but we're praying about it and we're worrying about it. Once you pray about it, you should forget about it because God got us. And the same way my son can dive off the couch or wherever he dives from and knows that I'm going to catch him, we have to be able to step out in faith and know that God is going to provide that job. God is going to provide that grade that you need. God is going to provide that scholarship you need. God is going to provide that internship you need. God is going to provide you with the transportation you need to get back and forth where you need to go. God is going to provide you with opportunities after you graduate to get these jobs that you want or start that career you want. But you cannot go through day by day after you pray still worrying about what you prayed about. So I don't know who needs to hear this, but we are God's children. If we run to him, he will catch us. If we call to him, he will answer. But we have to move out in faith. So, like Matthew 18, verse 3 says, unless you change your heart and become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. So I want us to leave today. It wasn't a long message, but I want us to leave today knowing that you need to have faith like Amari. That's it.
That's it. All right, thank you. Okay. So, thank you, Sam, for coming up here and sharing with us your message, brief as it is. But interestingly enough, I want to get some feedback from you. Well, not interestingly enough, but I do want to get some feedback from you. So, you heard about faith like Amari. The mindset is as a child, remembering as we went through the icebreaker, right? We saw one of the verses actually come up, right? If you remind me of how it goes, Matthew 18:3.
Unless you
Change
change and become
and
like
be,
children, you will not
mhm.
enter the kingdom of
You
heaven.
will not, unless you change and become like children, you will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. So, in summary, you a faith that would allow you to leap, make jumps that into the unknown, right? You have a father who is capable, has strong hands and is there somewhere, right? You don't know the distance. Sometimes you leap and you might really be off your target, right? But the father is there and will make any type of acrobatics, right? To catch the son, to catch the daughter. And you can be certain of that. So in times when you leap and you don't see the ground, you don't see the targets, you just gotta leap, you know? You just gotta go out and express faith like a child, faith like you know who your father is, faith like you understand that even though I might not be able to see the ground, I might not be able to see his hand immediately, I know the character of God, the character of Christ that promises that never once will you leap and fall. As a matter of fact, I believe it was in Psalms that says he will send angels to guard you lest you even bump. This is one of my favorite things. Lest you even bump your toe upon a rock. Like imagine that, right? And
I think
like,
a lot of times that God is literally waiting for us to step out there. You
mm-hmm,
know, just
mm-hmm,
waiting for us to step out in faith. I remember I got this job where I wasn't qualified for the job, but I still got the job because for whatever reason the God softened the person's heart and they saw something in me and they decided to hire me, take a chance on me. But if
mm-hmm,
I had never attempted to get that job, knowing that I wasn't all the way qualified for it, I would have never got the job. So
mm-hmm,
sometimes we're not stepping out, and God is waiting to open the door for you. He's waiting to catch you. He's waiting to make things happen for you. But
mm-hmm,
we're too scared to step out in faith.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How many of us has that happened to, where you feel like you're underqualified and opportunities are there knocking at your door, and God has literally laid out some plans for you, but you're like, oh no, God, that can't be for me because I'm not there yet. I can't leap. I am uncertain. What if I fall? Who has a story about that they would want to share? Like, who would like to share something? Like, I see that I actually didn't see the chat hands. Like, if y'all folks on the teams like had a story like that, or maybe you just, you're blessed beyond favor, where where that's never happened to you. But I tell you, that's happened to me. Anyone would like to share a thought on that?
I'll share.
Christine, go ahead.
There was one point in my life where opportunities were really like knocking at my door, and I was like really, I felt I wasn't really, qualified. But at that time, I was like doing this volunteering teaching position. Well, yeah, and then apparently I had like people like observing me, and they like the quality how I teach math, and how I explain things to the kids who are different levels, and there was this the assistant principal was asking me if she was like gave me opportunity to be like a math teacher from this public school, and I was like, I was hesitant. I was like, okay, because I always been overlooked and not been appreciated what things I do. So I feel like God, and I actually want to study engineering, but it seems like education is heading towards that way. So I think I might switch to like
Education,
teaching high school students, and yeah, that's my passion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But look at that. Like God, and that's the funny thing about God is that like he'll literally set you up, and like some stuff will just fall into your lap, like Sam shared. Like some things will just fall into your lap, and like you think that you're going in one direction, right? And you're like, yep, this is it. And then like doors will just be closing, and then like the things that you never even thought that you needed just fall into your lap, and you're like, well, like what's going on here, God? Yeah, and you're just like, I see where God is placing me. And the thing is like, what I like about that is in your previous plan, you planned that, you had step by step how this was going to go.
Right.
Then God threw a wrench in that plan, and now you have no plans. All you have to do now is have faith in God and allow him to lead you, because like literally he's just put in your path, like giving you the steps to go forward. And because you haven't come up with all your little plans about where you want life to go, like you literally have to just trust God and move forward. I'll go ahead and share that for many. Well, I don't think, as much as I know myself, I don't plan the future. Because I can never see more than a year or two ahead, like or four tops if it comes to school. I know I'm going to be in school for 4 years, 5 years. I'm like, well, at the end of it, I should come out with a degree. That's as much as I know. So and so like I get into, well, like psychology. I kind of stumbled into psychology. It was the only thing that I found interesting enough to pursue as a career. So I was like, okay, well, I need to go to college. So I got into college. 4 years passed. I'm like, well, I need to go to grad school because like you can't really do much with a psych bachelor's. So somehow ended up in like my junior year, before graduating, I found out that there was a degree called industrial and organizational psychology, which was psychology of the workplace and helping people in the workplace to be less stressed and all that stuff. So it wasn't clinical, it wasn't counseling, it wasn't the stuff that I didn't want to do, because I mean, sure, I could do it, but that's not what I wanted to do in my life. And I was just like, okay, so there's a business aspect to it. This seems like it was for me. And that's the thing, like I never planned, I didn't plan anything. Things just kind of fall into place. It was a conversation. It was walking by some pamphlet that was probably there for all 4 years, but I just hadn't seen it. And, things like that. And then things just started working out. So I have learned to like not even attempt to plan my future like that. I knew in grad school I was like, okay, you can do applied versus academia. Applied meaning you can go work for a company, or academia you could teach. And so as much as I knew, I was just like, as a matter of fact, I said I would never do a PhD. I was just like, I don't want that life. Or publish or perish? No, that's not for me. And here I am. Years later in a PhD program. So God has a way of like even the smallest little things that I said I wasn't gonna do. Here we are. I also said I would never do teaching because my mom was a teacher, and I was just like, that's not for me. And that goes back to the thing where I was talking about applied versus academia. I was like, I'm gonna go applied. Like, yeah, why not? I got into this USF, and for years they had a program where USF students could you just kind of like trickle into applied work. Like there was some professor who had a system where if anyone was interested, it would just be free opportunity to just work with her applied. Literally, I get to the school, she's on sabbatical, she comes back, something happens, the program is scrapped. Like then COVID hits. Like I literally had no opportunity to do applied work, and yet I had a conversation with someone, and they were whatever they were talking about teaching. It felt like it was for me. And then all of a sudden, I got my master's quickly enough where I can teach a class. Someone gave me I applied for a specific class to teach, and they switched me up and gave me statistics to teach. And I was just like, I've never taught statistics. I was trying to teach research methods, and they gave me statistics. I'm like, dear God, and then later on, I'm finding out they're like, oh my gosh, people just love seeing statistics on your resume when they're looking for teachers or instructors or professors, whatever. And I'm like, huh. I would not have chosen that for myself, but here it comes that God just closes the doors that my minor plans, at least where I thought I was gonna go, just closes some stuff and keeps putting me in the direction of being a professor. And I'm just like, well, I'm still not gonna plan, Jesus. I'm gonna let you lead, because I literally have no idea. If somebody asks me what I want to do with my life, I will say, sure, I will be an instructor, or I'll be a professor, or whatever for now. But it's not set in stone. Whatever God leads me, wherever God leads me, that's where I will go. Because I have learned to stop making plans and trust. Granted, I doubt often, very often, but my mindset is just that, look, when my best laid plans will often go astray. That is a quote from somewhere, I don't know. I think it's of Mice and Men, some quote from that. But your best laid plans of mice and men will often go astray. But the best laid plans of God are always the best, and they will never go astray. So wherever you are, leap into the path of Christ, leap into the arms of God, because He knows what is best for you always. And side note, I was doing my another side note for my side note. I was actually doing my devotions the other day, a couple nights ago, and I was reading something, and I think it was about love, 1 Corinthians 13 or something, 1 to 13, and it was like, love is, this, and it says love never fails, love always something. I can't remember right now, but instinctively I was writing my notes, and I was just like, that's crazy. When you do a question in an exam and they say this is always or never, you instinctively know that those questions, those answer choices are wrong, because there is never an affirmative that's forgot the word I was looking for, but always and never are absolute. That's the word. Always and never are absolute things that you're just like, those answers are wrong, because nothing is ever absolute. Yet God is love, and love is described in the scripture as it always wins, never fails. Granted, wins is not the word that is used in the scripture, but it does use always and never. And I'm like, well, yeah, God can do that because He works in the absolute, right? There is no There is no doubt in the actions that he does. His promises are absolute. So if there's anything you can say at any point in the human realm, you can say, okay, well, never and always is wrong. Like that is an incorrect choice. But with God, he works in the absolute. So when he says, I got you, absolutely, I got you. So that is something I thought of as I was standing here. Any thoughts from the audience, online or in person? What did you take away from our lesson?
For me, I really resonated with the part where he shared where sometimes Amari would just like chuck off and just be like, "Daddy, catch me," because I used to do that when I was younger, and I realized that I've been doing that with God. A lot of times, especially quite recently with the whole PA school and everything. Um, my plan, as I shared in my testimony before, wasn't necessarily to apply this cycle because I feel like my application was not strong enough and I didn't want to waste money submitting an application that was nowhere near ready according to my eyes. Um, but I feel like God laid it on my mom's heart to just be like, oh, Ashana, just dive in it still, just submit the application still. And so it was kind of a leap in that sense where you're just like, well, God, catch me. I'm just jumping out there. And that's what I did. And as he's always true to himself, he really did catch me and allowed me to get in this cycle, which I didn't think was possible. And it just showed that when he says he got you, and in his timing, everything will always work out. So especially that story that he shared with Amari, I really resonated with that, not just because that's something I used to do, but also I feel like that's something that I'm doing now, even in my grownness.
Or so-called grownness. Are we ever grown?
Well, you're right. Are we?
Indeed. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Max, it seems like you have something in your heart that you want to share.
Um, I was just thinking about, I guess I didn't quite know how to frame it. So I don't want to like come across as the doubter. Um, but I was wondering what happens if Amari does fall.
Hmm. I love that.
So that's a question that's been kind of going through my mind, and I haven't come up with any answers for myself. But what happens if no fault of um, the father's, um, you know, doing, he falls, he missed the jump, or whatever, he falls.
One thing about kids is, and I think that's why they say you have to go back into a kid-like stage, because one thing with kids is if he does fall, yeah, he might cry a little bit, but they get over things so quickly. And being a kid, he's still gonna take that next leap. He's not gonna stop jumping because that's not what kids do. So like, yeah, I understand your point. Like maybe one day I won't catch him, but at that age, they're not gonna. He's still gonna try to. He's still gonna do the same thing. He might cry for a bit, but he's still gonna do the same thing. And I think that's where we, as adults, sometimes when we leap, like Ashana said, and in our mind, God doesn't catch us. Maybe it wasn't. If she would have applied and she didn't get in, maybe it wasn't her time. It wasn't her season. And in her mind, it might be like, well, God didn't catch me, but God might be saying like, that's not my plan for you. And we still, and I think as adults, because that didn't work out that time, maybe next time she won't, when she feels like she shouldn't do something, she won't do it because of what happened in the past. And that's when we have to have the mindset of a child where even though things didn't work out this time, we still need to still leap in faith. I'm kind of a romantic, so I do that. I do that with love, and I've been burned plenty of times. But I still you know, even when I met my wife, I was coming out of a sort of messed up relationship, and I was still willing because I've always been the type where I'm not going to hold what happened in the past to someone in the future. So I was still willing to make that leap, even though what I was doing is something that I got hurt in the past. Does that make sense? So I think that, and I know that that's not the same thing, but I equate everything to love. So I think that because we know Christ loves us and he has our best interests at heart, that we still have to take that leap and see what happens. So yeah, you might not, you know, like I said, I was applying for jobs, I wasn't getting any jobs. And then the ones I was getting, I didn't want. So it's one of those things where I think sometimes it's like we wanted to be on our time and it's on God's time. And the two are often different. Like, and I don't know if I shared before, but like if I would have met my wife 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, we wouldn't be together because the timing would have been off, because where I was at and where she was at, we wouldn't have meshed. But the timing was right when we met. So I think maybe when Ashana did her application, the timing was right, you know? So we don't know what's going on with the person who receives the application. We don't know if at that time they need people to apply. We don't know if a lot of times things that we think are so rigid are really like humans' decisions. And God can soften someone's heart to, you know, it happens all the time. Maybe she got the application and she was of Caribbean descent. She was like, I want to see, you know, you never know. And stuff like that really happens. Like when I first got my job, the reason why, not this job, but the job I had before this, after I had been working for a while, they hired me because they thought I appeared to be a family man. So they was like, we want someone that's grounded in about family, because the person that had the job before me was single and he used to come to work late and, you know, he partied a lot and stuff like that. So I really was benefiting off of his mistakes just because we were two different type personalities and I had nothing to do with him, you know, but they were looking for his opposite, so to speak, and I just happened to fit that pattern. So it's really the reason why I got a job. I didn't get the job based off my qualifications. I got a job because they like my personality. Which is, I mean, like, you don't know when you jump out there, like, how God is moving. And so, but that's actually a really good question, because I think about that too. Like, one day I'm not gonna catch him because he's kind of fast. I'm not. So,
Beautiful. I want to thank you, Sam, for sharing. Thank you for the question, Max. I don't know if you had something else. We are at 9:10, so I do want to take if you had something to share, Max. I'll share one thing first, and then you can share quickly, and we'll wrap up with the prayer that's going to be led by Ashana. But when you said your question, I also it brought me to the mindset of like, how do we classify falling? So is falling something that we determine, or is it according to Christ? So Amari can leap off that couch and he might fall, but is that fall an absolute fall, or something to help grow his character? So however we define fall might make the experience different. So I leap into Christ, and it doesn't go how I think, and I classify that as falling, but that might have been a small descent, not like an absolute fall. So that's my interpretation. However, God defines fall. If I fall, God still got me, because He'll go all the way down to Sheol, bro, and get me. So that's my saying. Max, you had one more thing to say, and then we'll just go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, I think the analogy of a child is fitting because it's not just a chronological analogy in a sense of being a child as age, but it's a relationship analogy. It's not just being children, but being his children. So the connection, as was illustrated in the presentation, it's not just that it's a child leaping into the arms of a grown-up, it's a son leaping into the arms of a father, and that reinforces the trust. So I think ultimately part of the answer is, do I'm gonna just say do I see myself as the son of God, as a son of God? Do I see God as my father in this relationship? And the answer determines how much trust I truly have in him, if that makes sense.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I love that. Well, I wish we could stay on more and talk, but no, we get kicked out of the room.
I'm talking about you can do a Zoom one time. Just everyone sitting at home around Zoom.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, actually we do that. It's sometimes it's hybrid and sometimes it's teams. I got what you're saying. Yeah. Next time we meet, actually next week, it will be fully online. Note to y'all folks, it will be fully online next week, so we will not be meeting in person. So we get to do crave after hours. So for a longer time. So I love that. All right, so for the sake of time, we will be wrapping up. Thank you again, Sam, for leading discussion tonight. Thank you everyone for participating and from start to beginning, lies from start to end. Um, beginning to end, there you go. Words are failing me.